This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 193, recorded on November 20th, 2014. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all your favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your homes. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studio here in Bellevue, Nebraska. And no snow, Bellevue, Nebraska, by the way. It seems like the other parts of the country have been getting a ton, and we maybe an inch or two. And, of course, we post the show with world-class show notes each week out at the AverageGuy.tv. If you have questions, comments, or contributions, you can contact the show. Send me an email. Jim at theaverageguy.tv. You can track me down on Twitter at jcollison, or now call in those questions. And I've been holding on to a call that Kyle left about 2 months ago. Kyle, sorry about that, but at least Kyle got his name read every week, as I apologize for not playing it that week. But Kyle, we're going to actually start your call off here at the top of the show. 402-478-8450. That is a link if you go to the show notes. In every single episode, you can, on your phone, you can just click that link in the show notes. It'll automatically call me if you're thinking you want to leave a question. That's what Kyle does. He'll be thinking of something. He just calls me and leaves the question right there. Kyle, thanks for calling in. And now the Home Gadget Geeks is a part of the Geeks Network. You can find the links to this show and many other great podcasts. And we've been adding. We're going to be adding a few more to the Geeks Network out at thegeeksnetwork.com. Join us in chat. Watch or listen live on YouTube, Spreaker, and Mixlr, and now find all the navigation that you'll need for everything Average Guy out at theaverageguy.tv. All right, we got a good show headed out for you tonight, and super excited. I booked Ryan Parker about, it seems like, a year ago, and it wasn't that long, maybe 2 months ago. Ryan's been on before. He's the food craftsman, and he's out at foodcraftsmen.com. And Ryan, thanks for coming on.
Jim, it is a pleasure to be back. I'm so excited to be here, to be honest with you. It's been a long time since I've been behind the microphone, and your show has been my rock, bringing me back.
Good.
My touchstone to the podcasting community. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
No, I'm glad you came back on. I was excited when you said yes. Super excited about that mustache that's going on there. You didn't have that the last time.
Yes,
what's going on there?
You are recording in November, and so for the month of November, it's obviously Movember, which is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. So I grew this wonderful, horseshoe-style mustache earlier this week, and it was great until it got down to just about the chin, and then I had these like white snowballs on my chin. So I had to trim it down a little bit, and now I really look like a 70s overweight porn star. So it's pretty bad.
That's always the danger. That's always the danger. I never do it. I don't. It just doesn't.
Next year you're going to do it though, Jim, right?
I probably should, but
we're going to have a commitment from you today, right now, Jim,
next year.
We're going to get you
next year.
Well, the great thing is my dad, when I was growing up, my dad had a mustache until I was probably, I don't know, 10 or 11 years old, and I've got a younger sister, and so she was probably 6, and he had like one of those big like Magnum PI mustaches,
big
right?
full.
Like, totally like over the lip, everything. And one day he decided to shave it off, and my sister, who was 6 at the time, it just scared her to death because she didn't know who he was without his mustache. And so I actually conned him into growing his mustache again for Movember, and I'm waiting to see the final update on it. But he had this really, actually beautiful goatee going that was just snow white. So I'm gonna have my mother send me an update pic, and I'll forward it along to you so you can so you can see the sweet mustache that he grew for me.
That's awesome. Well, for me, I get to have these 2 gray patches. You know, you were talking about that right down here on the corner of my chin, and it's just ridiculous. And so I've done it a couple times. Not many pictures exist of me doing that, but I was tempted to do it this year, and then the problem is I don't have the right gear. I need to get the right tech gear. You
Yeah.
know, keep it trimmed, and because like if I stop shaving for like a weekend, it's there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's not a problem growing it; it's a problem maintaining it. And I'm a I just shave it, just shave and be done with it. Right? That's the
Well,
kind of guy.
I have a couple great, actual trimmers and stuff like that for beards and mustache, but mine just grows in such a weird fashion that I can't actually shape it to look good.
Yeah.
So I usually I usually just go with, sometimes I'll do like the 5 o'clock shadow,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
80s, 90s George Michael,
Yes.
look.
Careless whisper.
Yes, exactly. But it's like this, I mean, this, you can look at it, and like if you look above my lip and just below my nose, like it's like misshapen. It's horrible. It
It
looks like
almost
a
looks
kid.
fake. It almost
Yeah,
looks fake.
exactly. It looks like a kid actually shaved my mustache for me.
Well, that's awesome. Well, hey, let me warn people. I love just chatting with Ryan. We're not, the guys, you come every week and we have a big tech show. We're not going to talk a lot of tech tonight. We are going to talk some tech. We're going to talk food. If what Ryan does for a living is all around food. So every time he's on, I like to talk about that. So if you're in it for the tech, you might want to just move on. If
Nah,
you're in it
stick with
for a
food.
great conversation and some food conversation, stay around. We're going to have a great show tonight. I just want to warn you on that kind of front. Ryan, let's catch up with you a little bit. The last time we chatted, you were employed. Uh,
That's a real fake mustache right there for you.
hold on, I got it. Let me focus on you. Hold on. For a second. There we go. Beautiful. Yeah,
Is it on straight?
that's not bad.
There
It's
you go.
not. It's not bad at all. Good
It's my
work.
favorite color. So
That's well. I don't know if I can take you seriously with that thing on.
yeah, yeah. All
I
right.
guess no. That's good.
I'll put it on my beer.
We let's catch up with you. What are you up to? What are you doing? What's going on in life? I know you
Oh,
haven't been podcasting as much, but you're coming back. So what's going
I
on?
am. I'm making a comeback. It's like I felt I had jumped the shark a little bit. If you're familiar with that phrase.
Oh yeah.
Um, it was it was at a time as we were chatting a little bit. I was working with Whole Foods for a while, and I was working on one of their pilot programs, and they are very conscientious of what they do, and they decided to cut back in some of their pilot programs, and I kind of got caught up in that and so, which was fine. They made a smart business decision. As you can see, their stock prices have gone skyrocketing the last couple of weeks, which is awesome. But so anyway, I got caught up in that, and so I left Whole Foods in mid-September, and I kind of decided to have a little adventure for myself too, and I started driving for Uber, and I live in the Bay Area, so I started driving for Uber in San Francisco. It was kind of a challenge of like I just wanted to see what it was all about and see if you can actually make money doing it. And I do fairly well. I've replaced my income for the most part. Excuse me.
Really? With
Yeah,
just driving for Uber?
just driving for Uber.
Oh, okay.
But it took and so the one part of the reasons why I kind of delayed producing more show episodes is it took me a long time to figure out the timing and the groove, like when I needed to drive in order to make sure like I was making the money I needed to make and in certain times. And I'm still tweaking it. And like I have a feeling that this weekend's going to be interesting because I'm going to do my first like late night, taking people home from the club type,
Yeah.
shift.
Yeah.
So like
the drunk. The
the
drunk.
10 p.m. to 2 a.m. kind of shift.
Yeah. Yeah. Could be
And you're
good for tips. Could be awful. Right.
Right, exactly. And that's exactly what I called it. People that I have in the car, always ask me like, well, when do you normally drive? And I actually do kind of like the commuter shift in the morning, 5 to 10 a.m. And then I'll pick up a couple nights during the week where I'll do like 5 to 8:30 or something like that. And so I'm going to try my first drunk shift, and that's exactly what I call it, is the drunk shift. And so I'm a little nervous about it, but from what I understand, like there's money to be made in them there hills. So I'm going to give it a whirl.
Oh, good. Well, that's tech related. I mean, from that standpoint, we actually so Uber and Lyft here in Omaha, the Omaha, it's illegal here in the city of Omaha to run your own cab company, and
Hmm.
nobody believed. They were like, no, we're going to do it anyways, right? And there was some things going on around here. The city, they ran a sting operation, and today filed misdemeanor charges against 20 Uber drivers
Oh, wow.
for for carrying passengers illegally in the city of Omaha, and it's caused kind of a stink. People, the city fathers and mothers said it was going to be this way. They're like, look, this is illegal. You can't. I don't care if it's the internet. It's illegal
Right.
to do this. So it's interesting that as you talk about this, that you've moved to that. Obviously, in California, in the Bay Area, not a problem with that.
Not at the moment, but what's interesting to me is a while back they made it legal to drop people off at the airport, and just this month they actually signed an agreement with the San Francisco's International Airport, where Uber drivers will be allowed to pick up at the airport too, but they haven't hashed out the details and really announced exactly how that's going to work. I have a feeling we're going to kind of be put in a holding pen, and there'll be a specific spot for us to pick up if somebody requests a ride.
Right. Right.
And honestly, it's kind of an adventure. It's also a very good test of my patience driving for Uber. So I'm notoriously not patient with a lot of people, but it has been a learning experience. So I'm glad that I've done it, and I can see myself doing it for a little while until I find the next big adventure that I want to do.
Yeah. Are you getting repeat customers?
Actually, yeah, I have a couple on that commuting shift where I'm either taking them to the airport because they travel each week for business. Some of them are recruiters, salespeople, and it just so happens that I'll get them at least once a week or every other week. And one's a yoga instructor who teaches the same class at 6 a.m. On Tuesdays. So I tend to get her every other week or every 3 weeks. So it's interesting to at least I know who they are now.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes it kind of interesting, right? I mean, from that they become like coworkers. You kind of know them, right? I mean,
I know them for 10 minutes at a time.
yeah, but you do enough times, and I'm sure once, and then as they get to know you, it'll open up. Shoot, I was in Gainesville, Florida, for a recruiting trip this last fall, and when we first got there, we got in a cab, and the guy was super nice. And in Gainesville, all those cabs are independent, so there isn't like a mafia,
Right.
the mafia of cabs. So he gave us his card, and he was super nice, and he's like, hey, just call me. I will pick you up anywhere, right? And so for the rest of the week, well, we were there just for 2 days. For the rest of the time we were there, we called him, and he shuttled us all over, right?
Yeah.
And was super reasonable about it. And I took his card. I'm like, hey, I said, if I come back in the spring, I'm just going to call you. You're my guy. And he's like, yeah, I want to be your guy. And so it was interesting that and we knew him. I mean, I felt like I could talk to him when we were done. He
Exactly.
became a friend. So I think with Uber, you could.
Well, Jim, I have to say, with you, it's very, very easy to become your friend. You don't make it hard to become your friend, and that's a wonderful, wonderful quality that you have, is that you're a very good actor, or you are very genuinely interested in what people do, and I think that's a quality that is hard to come by in a lot of people, and for you, I think it's kind of that natural put people at ease and make them feel good about themselves, and then you show that genuine interest too. So people want to become your friend, and so I think that's a great thing, and I'm glad for that. And so I don't think it was a superficial thing where you kind of felt like he was your friend and you could talk to him. I think it was you actually plant those seeds for true friendship, which is awesome.
No, well, thanks for saying that. That's nice. Nice of you to say that. It's so interesting that you're doing Uber. We'll have to check back in with you next time and see. Ken had asked in chat, he said, do you line your car with plastic? And is it dangerous for your interior during the drunk shift?
I haven't done the drunk shift yet, but I am considering the car seat covers for it. It's dangerous when it rains because, like yesterday, I had a a young lady get in the car who had a guide dog, and so it's something that's not dangerous, but it can get messy, and so her guide dog got in and got on the seats. Well, it was raining out, and it's a dog. There's not much you can do about it other than to let it happen. Mm-hmm. Now, if it's not a guide dog, I can just say I don't allow dogs, and I tend to do that for larger dogs, but at the same time, it's like, my whole mission is to get people to where they want to go, safely and efficiently. And sometimes I'm not as efficient as I need to be in terms of knowing the city just quite yet, but I'm getting there.
Come on. And so I assume you're using GPS for everything. You get there's technology, you get all your drivers, or you get all your passengers through, I assume it comes in through an app, or
it comes in through the Uber driver app. So you can provide your own phone, or you can basically rent a phone from them. And it's got the Uber driver app on it. And so a request comes in, and it tells you where they are, and you can ask it to navigate there for you if you don't know where they are. Because there's a lot of actually like small alleys and one-way, small, tiny little streets in San Francisco that the average person may not know about. So I do use navigation to get to a lot of places. And then I actually use my own phone, and I just run Google Maps on it because it's got the live traffic updates through Waze now. Mm-hmm. Since they bought Waze, they've incorporated that into the Google Maps app, which works out really well.
Well, that's cool. No, it's interesting. Yeah. I went into this show not knowing that at all. I had kind of left. I hadn't asked you some of this stuff because I like the kind of the thrill of the live, getting this information from you, responding to it, and that's really cool. That I've not known anybody who's done that yet, and there's a lot of apprehension. I think a lot of people are worried about safety and being safety as the driver. Mm-hmm. For that, and so it's just one of those things I think people have. Well, have you felt unsafe at any point?
When I do, I don't stop. It's very simple. Oh, okay. I make that judgment call for myself. I was in an area in Oakland that just seemed a little out of place for myself, meaning it didn't look like there was somebody like ready to come out to the car and get in and use the service. So I pulled up and I kind of looked around for a minute and I was like, yeah, something seems off. So I just drove away, and after I drove a block or two, I canceled the trip and I make sure that I press don't charge the rider, so they don't get charged for anything, but they do have to call another.
I bet they're driver. Pissed too.
But well, it happens.
Yeah.
But you talked a little bit about safety on the passenger's part, and when I first started doing this, I would talk to especially the women who would get in the car. I wanted to find out their thoughts about it because it is a big safety issue, and they said actually I feel a lot safer in an Uber car because I know when they're going to show up. I don't have to wait on the corner for a cab to come by or randomly wait for you to show up. I know that you're a block away or you're 2 miles away. I have a record of whose car I've been in and the route we took. So there's some safety, at least goodwill there. Now, I've read the stories about the guys who have gone crazy as Uber drivers and done some weird stuff, but you have all that stuff in any industry that you work in. I've had chefs throw knives at me, growing up, so it's not a damnation of the profession as a chef.
Right.
It's that guy was crazy, and something made him snap.
Yeah, it happens anywhere from that standpoint, and interesting. I find the model fascinating, and so it'll be just interesting to see how this progresses.
Here's the conversations that I've been trying to have. Is Uber a technology company? Are they a transportation company? Or are they just a service company? Those are the three questions that I have, because really if you're a technology company, the technology itself is not all that complicated. It's kind of a message relay system and GPS. That's the core of it. And they have some really neat features like I don't get a person's actual cell phone number. I have a general number that I could hit in the app, and it sends either a phone call or a text message to the person who is currently connected with me. So once the ride ends and I move on to the next rider, I don't have access to the person that was in the car before. So I never see somebody's actual phone number, et cetera. I have an Uber number that I just hit, and it relays messages back and forth. But if they're a technology company, then there's a lot of improvement that can be made. If they're a transportation company, they're doing a great job, and if they're a service company, they're a great job. So if we really want to focus on their technology, there's a lot of improvements that can be made in terms of their location services, et cetera. Like sometimes it's a block off here or there, or I've had one that's been like a half a mile off at some point. And sometimes that's user error, and sometimes that's just the app itself recognizing where your location is. A really good example of their improvement that needs to happen is during busy times. A good example is Halloween. During that weekend, Halloween night was Friday this year?
Yeah. Yep, Friday
And
night.
so it was like one of the busiest Uber nights of the year. And their network went down. And you couldn't log in to the service as a driver for 45 minutes to pick up, so I lost 45 minutes of quote unquote work time where I couldn't, provide the service that I'm out there to provide. So there's some small things that, can happen here or there. And so when you're relying on somebody else's technology, you're kind of at their mercy, and that's a big issue for myself.
Ken asked this question, who can report issues, who can you report issues to, and who can they report issues about the drivers? How does that work, and how are drivers held responsible?
Okay. So let's take that first part of the question. Who can I report issues to? Is Ken asking about like network or
so say you
tech
get
issues?
say you get a bad passenger for whatever reason, or
Okay.
they don't pay, or I guess it's because the pay is all handled through the app.
Yeah,
right?
the pay is
So
all handled through the
you don't
app.
have to worry
so.
about that.
Well, here's an example is the great news is the passenger rates the driver and the driver rates the passenger. So the first week I was doing it, and I don't know if maybe I was just tired and being oversensitive, but the first week I started driving for Uber, I had an older gentleman who got in a car, and he said, I want to go to X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. I was like, great. And so I started, plugging into the GPS to see what Google had to say. And he goes, well, I want you to take California to this, to that, to that. And I was like, okay, well, if you have a specific route you like to take, I'm happy to do it. And he goes, well, I should know. I've only lived there 40 years. And he was just kind of a prickly kind of guy. And I think it was just the time of day because I had driven him about maybe 100 feet. And I turned and pulled to the side of the road and just said, I'm going to ask you to get another Uber driver, and I'm going to let you out here. And his response was, well, if you do this, I'm going to give you a really bad review. And I said, I would really love it if you gave me a 1-star review, because that ensures that you will never be in my car again. And so it works both ways. So if I don't like the passenger, or they do something, or they're inconsiderate or rude or more than that, I can rate them below a 3, and I'll never have them picked up again. Now, if there's something that's more of an issue, you do more of just a direct email, but there's no direct phone call or contact with them currently. And they have a driver center out here in San Francisco. I'm not sure if they have it in other cities where they have an actual place that you can go to and speak to people. Mm-hmm. But if I have trouble with a passenger, I just make note of the trip number, and I'll include it in my email and describe what happens. If somebody messes up my car or gets sick in the drunk, during the drunk shifts or something like that, I can actually stop for a second and take pictures of what has happened and actually charge a cleaning fee. So I'll be reimbursed for it.
Good. Yeah.
But it works both ways too. So if I'm kind of a jerk to a passenger, they can they can report that as well, or it can be just as simple as, rating me below a 3.
Yeah, and I imagine if you get enough of those, Uber stops sending you customers.
Exactly. I think I think the number is like if you get below a 4.6, you have to go in for driver training. Another
How to
driver
be nice.
Yeah.
Here's how you be. These are customers. You be nice to them. Yeah.
Well, I had a gentleman who actually drove. I took Uber as a passenger, and we kind of got to talking about, we're both Uber drivers, and we were talking about it. But his Uber rating was a 4.2, and he had been doing it almost exactly the same amount of time that I had been doing it. And at the time, I had a 4.91 rating or something like that. But what I'm seeing, he was a poor driver. Not that he didn't know the city, or, in fact, we weren't even in the city. I was in Oakland at the time, so it wasn't even San Francisco. But it was just, it was a jerky motion. He wasn't quite sure where he wanted to go, even though I was giving him directions. And so I think also part of it was a language barrier, and I think you get lower ratings if English is not your native language and you don't understand it or can communicate it very well. I think you get lower ratings for that, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's just a preference of the passengers. Like, I want to be able to communicate with my driver.
Yeah, I think that. Oh, well, people complain about that all the time. I'm going to get a taxi. They're not going to understand me. I'm going to, I don't feel you go to a new city and you're not sure if they're taking the right or the most efficient route, and
and that's actually part of the reason why I use GPS too, and I have it displayed on my dashboard so everybody can see it. That's one of the reasons why I put it in Google Maps, is so they can see that I'm not like just randomly driving the city because they're not from here. And some people still have a specific route they like to take.
And you just take them,
and
they
I
just tell you where to go, and you just do it.
Well, cool. What I've learned is when they start saying, "Well, I'd like you to go down this street and that street," I'll say, "Great, I'm happy to do it. Just make sure that you stay involved and giving me directions throughout the trip so we don't miss a turn." And that's been a big help.
What's the longest trip that you've taken with a customer? How does that work?
I took from San Francisco to Palo Alto. It was an hour-and-a-half trip. And it was regular rate, so it was like $80-some. It's not bad. It's pretty good. I think...
And that's good for you, right? That's a good... the longer the route, the better, right? It is for you.
Yeah, exactly. So, the guy was like, I'm really sorry, but I need to get to Palo Alto. And I was like, that's totally fine with me. Like, that's actually what I'm here for, is to take you places. So if you want to go to Palo Alto, that's totally fine.
If you want to go to South San Jose.
Exactly. That's exactly what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So, I had one do that, and I had another gentleman who I picked up in San Francisco, and it was literally 3 times surge pricing. And he said, I want to go to Palo Alto, but I don't want you to go through the city. I want you to take this particular route. I'm going to show you the way that I like to go. And I was like, fine. He goes, it's going to be longer, but it's a cooler view, and I just don't want to drive through the city. Totally cool. So we get down there. It was $190-some for an hour trip, and he was totally fine with it because his company pays for it. He was a member of I guess I won't say the company, but a really forward-thinking tech company that creates thermostats for your home.
Yeah, because we don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is.
That's awesome. Well, it's interesting, and then from that standpoint too, you could almost kind of, can you advertise at all that you're? Say I'm the Uber driver for tech people because I'm a tech guy. I don't know.
It's all based on the vicinity of the request. So it's not. There's a couple other rideshare companies out there that you can actually set your own rate, number one, and you can actually have a private client list. I haven't done those yet, which I've been thinking about doing, because there's certain people that I'm sure I could be like, hey, I'll just save you $5, on this trip. Just give me a call and let me know that you need a ride, and I know that you take this trip every week.
Yeah.
I could possibly do that. I just haven't decided whether or not it's worth it. You know?
Sure. Sure. And you could to the Palo Alto trip, you could potentially pick somebody else back up and bring them into the city, right? At that point, is
Right.
that
So I had one person that I took to Palo Alto last week, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to Palo Alto, and then I got to drive back an hour, and all these times are different because it all depends on time of day and traffic, et cetera.
Right.
Because it is literally all highway driving.
right?
And so I was like, all right, well, I'll drop her off, and I'll see if there's any need for passengers there. And I think her total was $70 some, and it was a good hour long trip to get down to where she needed to go. I get there and there's surge pricing at the train station, and I get a request, and I take a guy probably 15 minutes across town, and it was $40. You know, so I mean, it's all relative to that surge pricing model.
And we cab it from DFW in Dallas out to Richardson, and that's a little jaunt. It's probably half an hour for us to get out there. That's a $65-$70 cab ride. You know, by the time we get out there, I have to take the cab whenever I get to USC. I have to take the cab from LAX to USC, and that's a $65 cab ride, and that's actually 20 minutes, and it's $65.
Well,
to
because
get
they have minimums too, that go along with it, and I think some of the here's number one. I got to say, I don't begrudge any of the taxi drivers or that system. People want to use it, great, that's fine. I have nothing against taxis. A lot of them know the city 10 times better than some of the Uber drivers that I know, including myself. Some of them don't, but you know, it's just a different business. So I would suggest to you that actually you go out and maybe even talk to Gallup and see if you can set up a business account with Uber, you know, and give that a shot.
No,
Because,
some of our executives have used it already.
yeah,
Yeah.
because if, like, for instance, if you're traveling by yourself, you know, to USC, et cetera, or even just one other person, and you use UberX, there's going to be plenty of room for your luggage, and two of you can get to wherever you need to go. Like that $65 trip that you just talked about may only be $35 or $45.
Yeah. No, I should probably embrace it. You know, as a tech guy, I should. I haven't set that up yet. And Randy's offering to take me from DFW to Richardson for $50.
There you go.
And that would be awesome. I get to meet him. So
Right.
Randy,
That'd be perfect.
I will be in Dallas this spring. I'll give you a call. He said, "Well, not during rush hour." No, we always get there early in the morning with our trip. We fly down to Dallas, first flight out of Omaha down to Dallas. So we get in DFW about 9 o'clock, and so we miss the rush hour stuff. It's just Texas or Dallas has got all those freaking tollways, and otherwise I'd rent a car, you know, type deal. So I know the Bay Area, you don't mess with tolls, but you got to mess with bridges.
Well, we have tolls on the bridge.
Yeah.
So, you know, and if I have a passenger in the car, they actually pay for the toll, whether I'm going in or out of the city. So, for instance, today I picked up somebody in San Francisco who wanted to go to the Oakland airport, which is unusual, but it happens. And they support the toll fee going out of the city because Uber is assuming that I'm going to have to come back in to continue to work, or, you know. So I get reimbursed for some of that. My next big thing that I got to do is, which I didn't even think about this when I started driving for Uber. I thought, oh, I'm just a guy who's going to, you know, work for, you know, become a quote unquote partner for Uber, et cetera. And then I had an accountant guy get in the car, and he was telling me, by the way, I've had some really cool people. I had a NASA rocket scientist in the car last week.
In the Bay Area, especially. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just, that'd be cool.
She told me all about the next, like, 5 space missions NASA was doing and how they partner with, like, the European Space Association, et cetera. It was really, really cool. So anyway, I didn't even think about it this way, but this is actually really my introduction into business ownership. You know, I really have to treat this as my business, and I mean, I treat my car. I call it my little cash machine because, you know, that's what's providing me money right now. So I call my little car my little cash machine. I wash it several times a week. Everything gets vacuumed and cleaned, and it looks great. But he started telling me, he's like, listen, man, he's like, you own a business now and you need to treat this like you own a business, which I thought was really insightful. And he's like, go get an accountant and find out what you need to do in order to make sure your taxes are taken care of. He goes, because there's a lot of advantages that you can take now with, you know, your taxes that you couldn't take before. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Like, I mean, I
Every
thought
single
about
mile, right? Every
Yeah.
single mile. Yeah.
I thought about, you know, oh, well, I can do the mileage and that's going to be good enough. He goes, no, you don't understand. He goes, you can choose the mileage or you can choose to itemize, and it all depends on your situation. So I'm not saying, you know, one is right or the other. Chat room. I don't want I don't want a tax argument here because I haven't talked to my accountant yet, or I haven't gotten an accountant yet. But, you know, he's like, the phone you've got sitting on your dashboard there, the gas mile, not the gas mileage, but the gas that you pay for, the car washes, take your fiance out to lunch or dinner every once in a while and, you know, talk about business. You know, just he listed 10 or 15 things that I hadn't even thought of. And he's like, your car payment that you're making on this car, he goes, you could probably write off 90% of your car payment. He's like, that's just free money sitting there. Don't waste it. And so really you have to, you know, I want to talk to the accountant to find out whether or not, you know, taking the mileage is worth it or doing the itemized part is worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I believe it's one or the other.
This is when it's great to have a tax guy. That's the, you just get that done, and they set you up, and then that's just a fee you pay, but you make it back in
spades.
And stuff. Rennie was asking, what kind of vehicle do you use?
I actually, well, when I started, when I was trying this out to see if I could tolerate being in the car. My fiance has a Jeep Liberty, a 2007 Jeep Liberty, and she was like, you can use it. You don't have to worry about it. Just use it, blah, blah, blah. And I was spending like $20, $30 in gas a day. Driving that around the city. And so we got together and talked, and I said, look, I can do this for a couple months until, you know, something else comes out. Something else comes along in the space that I'm looking for. And I could pay that $20 or $30 in gas every day or every other day. Or I can put that money into, you know, a car payment. So I actually went out and got a 2012 Prius C, which is their small, you know, Prius model. And, you know, the payments are reasonable on it, and I get 53 miles to the gallon a day on average, you know. So I'm just putting that money back into a car payment versus paying for gas every day.
Yeah. No, that's a good, and you get a nice car. And you're the stereotypical Uber driver.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting is I bought the car, and as I was driving off the lot, I saw the Prius V, which is like the large Prius version, the same shape and model of what I got, but it's like twice the size. And I was like, oh, I should have got that car. Like, that's the one. But I love it. No, I get in and out of little tight spaces, and the only thing I would say is don't get a white car.
Yeah.
It shows the dirt like crazy, and so when it rains out here, it looks like I ran through a mud puddle.
I would never have thought when we started this conversation. First of all, I had no idea we were going to have an Uber conversation. But
me neither.
I never would have thought the condition of the car mattered. I know it does, and as you talk about this, I go, oh, that makes sense. People want to get into a clean car, but
exactly.
I would have, I wouldn't have even thought of that.
That's why I cringed when the lady got in the car with the dog the other night, and it was raining out, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to wash the whole inside of this car.
You need a dog blanket that's in the trunk. You could just,
that's actually a really good idea. I actually
just have it on hand. Couple towels.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna actually have a dog blanket, and when somebody says I've got a dog, I'm gonna say that's totally cool. Here's the blanket to put down, and you have to sit on it too.
If it's got a little bone on it or something, the dog owners will love that. Right? Yeah. They'll be like, "Oh, you have a special blanket for my dog. I'm calling you back."
That's
right?
Yeah. No, that's a great idea. I hadn't even thought about that.
There you go. There's a little
I looked
added
at
value.
I looked at it as a hindrance, but that's actually a really great opportunity.
Dog owners would love that, to just take care of them a little bit and be like, no, not a problem, but I do have this dog blanket, and you pull it out and it's got a bone or whatever, and they're like, oh, they'll just go crazy. Lopta was asking, are there many Uber drivers using all electric that you know of, or you may not know?
See, I don't know, but in the city, for me, like, it seemed like an impossibility. Yeah. Not just because of where I live. I don't have the opportunity to plug in the car, because I had thought about that. But then again, I also went with something that was readily available. They're selling at the dealership I went to. I bought it in September. They sold 400 Priuses in a month. It's the number one selling car in California, et cetera, et cetera. And this is not a commercial for them, but I really like the car. So I went with what was available and on the lot that I didn't have to wait for, while I still had a verifiable income from Whole Foods Market.
That's right. You were up against the clock. Right?
I was against the clock, or I would have taken some time to do it. But to be quite honest with you, I wish I had started 3 months prior.
Okay.
Because I know now that, when I find something that I want to do full time again, I'm still going to do this, a couple days a week, and whether I make $100 extra in a weekend or $500 extra in a weekend, that's just going to be extra money to put towards things that we want to do, like move or take a vacation.
Like a side job. I do podcast consulting on the side.
Mm-hmm.
I help several people out, record and produce and edit their podcasts. It's nice to have a little extra cash that goes into my tech fund that, we separated out. I told my wife years ago, hey, when I do this kind of work, that goes into my fund. That's my money. And I won't overspend on that account because I was, just pulling out of the general fund. And, of course, anytime you need something, which is like every month, you tap in there. So, yeah, that's a good idea. Kind of keep that around as date money or whatever.
Yeah, all that stuff. I mean, and it's the funny thing is it's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, 90% of the time, it's kind of fun because I get to hear the cool stories, and then the 10% actually sticks with you a little bit longer, But 90% of the time, it's a good time.
It's like anything, from that standpoint. I think I'd really like doing it. I think that would be something.
I think you would really. I wish I could find a way to actually record it on occasion.
Yeah.
So I actually could create content from it. And I don't know if you've ever seen. Do you know who Jay Bear is?
I know the name. I don't know.
So he's on Convince and Convert. .com, I think. But he does a thing called Jay Today, and it's a 3-minute show that he records on his iPhone. And you and I talked a little bit early at the beginning about how I hadn't been doing podcasts. But I think, honestly, what I'm going to do is just set up an iPhone holder in my windshield and just record a few-minute video podcast. I don't even think I'm going to make it a podcast. I think I'm just going to put it on YouTube for now. But just about the stuff that I normally talk about within food, et cetera, when I have the free time, like when I'm waiting for a ride, et cetera.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, I'd love to say when the person comes in, hey, I'm a podcaster, and I would love a chance to just record this conversation that we're having, and I'll ask questions about you. And, most people would probably say no, but every once in a while you would have, and after you produce a couple of them, people might actually start looking for that, right?
Yeah,
like
I would.
Like
I don't the big. Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I'd have to dig deep into the terms of service because I have a feeling that's against terms of service.
Yeah, probably. Well, you should be driving, not doing a podcast, right? At the end of the day, you should be driving.
I don't pay attention to where I go anyway. Literally, I look at the little digital screen on my dashboard and go, okay, here we go.
And
it's
according
time to drive.
According to Sarah, I'm not a very good driver anyways. And according to one of the people I work with at work, I'm too slow. I drive like an old man. So apparently I'm not a very good driver either. Well, hey,
I don't drive very fast, so.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. I go the speed limit.
By the way, if you are late to your brunch reservation and you want me to get there fast, you should have called 15 minutes earlier.
Exactly. Your lack of planning is not.
Yeah, I'm going to drive and get us there safe. I need to make it home today.
Do you get people who say rush?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Got to get their stat.
Like, I'm behind. I literally had somebody in the car that was late for brunch, and our brunch reservation was 15 minutes ago, and by the way, we're driving 5 miles across San Francisco. So I need you to get there as fast as possible. Well, I'm going to get there as efficiently as I can. I just need to let you know that I don't run red lights or speed, but I'm happy to take you where you want to go.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to have set that in advance because you just don't want to I mean, you just don't want to have that
Like
liability there. So.
I push through those yellow moving into orange and red lights, but I don't, I try not to break the law.
Randy says he's the guy to call when you're late.
Randy, if I'm at DFW and I'm late, I will be calling you.
I am calling you, Randy. Can you get me to University of Dallas or University of Texas Dallas in 10 minutes? And it's not rush hour. I'm calling Randy for sure the next time I get down there. Well, that's a great conversation, Ryan. We didn't plan on going there, but that was, I think, maybe the best part of the podcast, to be honest with you, as we talk about that. So I certainly never would have thought, and seeing that news today, I mean, that news about Uber in Omaha was just today. Funny how providence or coincidence or whatever you want to call it works out, but very interesting story and fun just to catch up with you on that as well.
Well, and just as a side note, they were doing a sting operation at the SFO airport up until the point where they announced the agreement. People would come up to the car, can you take me to so-and-so? And I'm like, no. Like, you don't even have luggage, dude. And you have the crappy mustache that I've got, so I know you're a cop.
Just ask him if he votes Democrat, and if he says no, he's a cop.
Exactly. So. You look like Dennis Franz from NYPD Blue.
And we're back to the mustache. I like it. Well, I told I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast. I told you guys I would play. Kyle called in and had a question about listening to the show on a mobile device, the live show with YouTube, and I want to encourage you guys to call these things in. It's great to get these kind of questions from you guys. And I can't always have you on the show, but call 402-478-8450. Let's play Kyle's question.
Hey, Jim. This is Kyle. This is calling question number 1 of 2. I don't remember what number 2 is right now, so I'll call back and leave it later when I remember. But
it's the best part of the call.
Yeah.
Question 1 is about watching the podcast on a mobile device live. If I go to theaverageguy.tv/live, I can get the video and watch it in the browser in YouTube or YouTube in the browser, but it buffers a lot. If I can figure out how to get it to play on YouTube in the app on an Android, it seems to work pretty well. But the only way I've been able to figure out how to get it to play like that is to go to the desktop version of YouTube, and I don't even remember, but I have to copy and paste it into the YouTube client. So there's basically not an easy way from Google Plus or YouTube to see what videos are being done live. I didn't know if I'm just missing it or if you got a solution for that or anything, but just thought I'd throw my 2 cents in there on that. So thanks. Bye.
Awesome, Kyle. Thanks for the call. And, of course, Kyle is on the podcast from time to time, so always good to have him on. We'll have him back here as we get into 2015. Kyle, the way to do that is go to theaverageguy.tv/live or Live 2. And Live 2 is really better on your mobile device. It's kind of optimized for that. And then in the upper right-hand corner that just says YouTube, there's a little link. And if you just touch that, it will automatically then invoke you to go into the app on Android, and you can open it up inside the YouTube app and try it from there. So if you're still having problems with that, let me know. That's the way to do it if you want to listen to the show live on YouTube when we're live. The best way to do that, you get that started. You can't, once you're in the app, you can't flip out to the chat room, otherwise the video will stop. That's going to require a 2-phone setup then. You're going to have one playing the video, one live in the chat room, and you'll be double fisting. Maybe you do the iPad or Samsung Galaxy Tab or Surface. Maybe you play the video on that and you chat on your phone. One of those 2 ways. Kyle, that's how you get it done. So thanks for trying to listen to us live on your phone. Nothing like pushing the envelope to listen to theaverageguy.tv. So I appreciate that getting done. Ryan, while I had you, I want to talk a little food because Thanksgiving is coming up, and this is the part of the show where we're going to get really hungry because we're tech guys, but we love to eat, and everybody kind of has their own traditions coming around Thanksgiving. A while back, and I'm pretty sure this is on the averageguy.tv site, if you go out and search bacon-wrapped turkey on my site, I'm pretty sure you're going to see a post from a couple years ago where I talk about what I do now. And I don't literally wrap it. You can go on YouTube and look at turkeys that have been like weaved and wrapped like that way. I don't get that crazy. I make this tinfoil sleeve that kind of goes around the turkey. Think of it like an envelope, and then I crunch it up on the ends so that it comes to a little hole in the top, and I leave it open. And then before I do that, I kind of layer the top of it with bacon.
Mm-hmm.
I pour some cheesy garlic Italian dressing in there, a few herbs, and this is not healthy, by the way. This is this is good.
Me. Have you seen me lately behind this mustache? I am not. I'm not.
You're not a healthy man, and this is Thanksgiving, and we go all out, but. I've thrown an apple in the in the hole. I've put garlic in there.
Sure.
Layer it with bacon. We cook it for about 3 hours on the grill. So I take the top rack off the grill, turned it to about medium heat. Depends on how cold it is outside on Thanksgiving Day, but here in the Midwest it can get pretty cold. 3-4 hours, closer to 3 than to 4. I test it to I use a meat tester to get to 170 degrees. In the center. Oftentimes it's much hotter than that one, and it still comes out very, very moist and
Interesting.
It's really delicious. As a food guy,
Mm-hmm.
and every year I kind of change this up, right? I add different things. It's never the same twice. And so I'm getting ready. We're going to a big Thanksgiving family gathering here in town, starting with about 35 people in it. I'm cooking 2 of these, and I've done 2 before, so it's not a big deal. Anything when you think about turkey, what else can I add to that? Knowing it's kind of in an envelope, everything's kind of cooking on the inside. What would you recommend I add to that?
I really want you to take a step back from before you get to the grill. When you get your turkey, make sure you thaw it out. Obviously. Yep. Do you buy a frozen or do you buy a fresh?
We buy frozen, and then I pull them out a day or so in advance and put them in a fridge to kind of start thawing.
Okay, so what I would do, like you buy your frozen turkey and then you pull it out a day in advance from the freezer to let it thaw. What I would do at this point is get yourself a nice 20-quart, 30-quart cooler, like an Igloo, solid plastic cooler.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what I would do is I would actually fill that up with about 3/4 of the way with just hot water, and I would add a couple cups of salt.
Just regular table salt or sea salt or
kosher salt. Yeah,
okay.
Whatever you got.
Okay.
Whatever you got on hand.
Mm-hmm.
Like 1 or 2 cups of that. Taste that water. It should taste like the ocean, right?
Okay.
Like you don't want it to be too salty, but it should be salty enough, okay? Mm-hmm. Half a cup of honey or something sweet that you like, maple syrup maybe. Black peppercorns, just throw in a 1/4 cup of those, whole. You don't even have to crush them. And, really solid, good 3 or 4 tablespoons of Tabasco or hot sauce. If you like Frank's or if you got a special hot sauce that you like.
We do a lot of Tabasco.
Okay. And so really what you do is then you let that chill down or come to room temperature. Put your frozen turkey in there. Okay. Add, half a bag of ice and let it sit until you're ready to wrap it up in your envelope, etc. Mm-hmm. What you're going to do is you're going to be able to take all of that flavor, and by the process of osmosis, you're gonna get all of that salt and flavor go into the turkey itself. Okay, and you can let that sit if it's cold outside, if it's 30 degrees or 35 degrees outside, and you got half a bag of ice in there, you can let it sit out in the garage, so it doesn't even take up space in the kitchen. I brine, when I'm in Michigan for Thanksgiving, I can brine a turkey in a garage or just outside the garage in the backyard or something like that. It's cold enough. You just want to make sure that you check it far enough in advance that is thawed, fully thawed. Because what's happening is the cells in the turkey really want the salination to be equal in the water that is in the turkey, so the turkey meat itself. So it's going to suck in all that flavor with it. So I would start there. I think that's going to be a huge bonus for you. And
is
at
that
least
a
give it
24
12
hour?
hours. At
Okay.
least give it 12 hours.
Can you do it too long? Can you brine for too long?
No, because it's just going to equal out. So as long as it's not too salty or too overpowering when you taste it,
okay,
it'll work out fine.
And a normal sized turkey would thaw in that kind of water in a 12 or 18 hour period.
Yeah, I would give it a full 24 hours to thaw.
Okay.
So if you want to make the brine relatively quick, cut the water in half, put all that same amount of other ingredients in a pot, bring it to a boil, and then add enough ice to it for it to chill back down and have a nice. You want to taste the brine before you
Right.
put the turkey in.
And the key is the water being warm to mix all the salt in to right.
Right, but
Okay.
it has to be cold before you put the turkey in,
God, yeah.
or it'll
Or
screw up
bacteria
your-
forms.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you want to keep it on.
Okay.
You want to keep it below 40 degrees. So as long as you keep it below 40 degrees and above freezing, it's going to thaw out in about 18 to 24 hours.
Okay. So 24 hours in advance, pull it out, begin to thaw. Maybe the night before, make the mix, drop it in, let it go overnight. Then in the
Yeah.
morning, make the sleeve.
Do
start
everything exactly
okay.
the way you do it.
Okay.
Give yourself pull it out of the brine an hour before you put it in the sleeves, and allow it to on the countertop. For about a half hour, 45 minutes, kind of dry out, because your skin will get tacky,
Okay.
and it will actually create a nice crust on all the parts that aren't covered in bacon.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then secondly, you talked a little bit about the temperature that you had that you cook them to. I would lower that down to like 165, maybe even 160. Once you hit that 160 mark, take it off the grill, leave it tented and covered, because it'll, in the next 15 minutes, it'll bring it up to 165, which is the lowest safe temperature for poultry. So you're going to lower that temperature down to 160 or 165, because once you hit that 170 mark, I know you said it's still juicy. I think you're going to see a huge difference
Okay.
there with your turkeys.
So you're saying, so I measure, I go out every 20 minutes or so, and I kind of, I stick the thermometer in the center. Once that gets to 160, 165, call it good. Leave it in the container, though.
Right,
and
off
bring
the
it in.
grill. Pull it off
Okay.
the grill. Leave it in the container, tented, close tight. Boom.
Yep.
That residual heat's going to push its way through the meat.
Okay.
Now, remember, in our last conversation here on the show, we talked about the iGrill.
Right.
So you can actually monitor that temperature
Oh, that's
in
true.
your turkeys without having to go out there and open it up, let the heat out. It'll cook probably an hour faster if you don't have to open that up.
That's what
So they've
Jim's
got
going to order
some-
from Amazon right now.
Exactly. So remember, that has the opportunity then for you to actually cut your cooking time. So are you going to do 2 turkeys on the same grill?
2 on the same grill.
Good. And that worked for you last time?
Yep.
That you've done?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep. Yeah.
So, pick your bigger turkey. Like if you've got one that's 24 pounds and one's 22 pounds, put the thermometer in the thickest part of the biggest turkey. So middle part of the breast, make sure the probe's not touching the bone. And when that hits 160, 165, pull it out and you're done with it.
This is great. Let me show you. So let me flip over and make sure I'm looking at the right thing from a tech perspective. So we're on Amazon. Is this the iDevices iGrill Mini? Would that work for me? You think?
Bluetooth range. Yeah, so it connects to your phone, Bluetooth. Yeah, I think that would work well for you.
And would that
Look in the I would look further in the description to make sure to see how big the probe is.
let's see this item. Okay, Bluetooth, grilling thermometer, mobile device, 150 hours. Doesn't say in here.
Okay, well,
Okay.
head back up to the picture and let's open up.
So here's there's the probe. Can you see the?
Yeah, I think that would work fine for your turkey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just find a spot and get it in there as deep as I can get it.
Yep.
Okay.
Middle of the breast, and make sure that cord is long enough for it to work on your grill with the turkey, I guess, too.
I'll put that back up there so it's showing. Say the cord's long enough, right?
Yeah, from the probe to the monitor.
Okay. Yeah,
I think that would be my only concern, but it's built for the grill, so it should have a pretty good sized.
right. I think it does. It looks, at least on the picture here, it looks like it does. So
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. Well, it's this is $40. I mean, it's not terrible from that standpoint.
That's
It would
actually
be
a
a
really good price.
awesome way, an awesome way to continue to monitor that and not ever have to open the, because my process is then when I'm done, the the bacon comes off the top and it re-seasons the grill. So I just throw it right, pull the turkeys off, take the bacon, throw it on the grill, and I just kind of cook that. And it's messy, but I want it to be messy. I want that bacon grease to, because I have a cast iron grate for my grill, and it dries out after a couple hours of that heat, and so that bacon grease just re-seasons it, and I'm back in business. Right?
Yeah,
at that
that's
point,
perfect.
the grill's back to, and then whatever bacon we get out of that goes on a plate. It's not a lot, but we get some. Goes on a plate, goes in the house. The tradition has been that's the kids' hors d'oeuvre before. Now,
That's perfect.
It's awesome. The kids love it. Now, the last couple years, they have not taken me up on that. We always have bacon left over, and that's such a crime because I eat it all at that point.
Just go ahead and give me the bacon. I'll just eat it. Don't worry about it.
I got it. And then I get over there for lunch, and I'm not even hungry. And they're like, "Are you gonna have any turkey?" I'm like, "No, I just ate 2 pounds of bacon."
I just ate some bacon. Don't worry about it. I'm fine.
That's awesome. So, okay. So, 2 great tips there. Brine it, which I've never done before.
Yeah.
Temperature. Get it to that spot. I'll get this iGrill thing going and probably take some pictures of it at the same time and drop in a post. Yeah. And then anything from a seasoning standpoint, when we're talking about, is there anything else? If I've got bacon, I started this whole thing with this cheesy garlic Italian dressing, which is oily, and it goes down to the bottom and creates a really kind of a hot pocket of moisture that's kind of coming up around the turkey.
Here's the other crazy part that I'm going to tell you is actually for the way that you're cooking your turkey in a tent, it's in a container, it's in a tent, it's covered. Literally flip your bird over upside down so the breast is actually on the bottom.
I've done that before once.
Because you're really not getting that roasted golden brown turkey that you would get in an open air roast. So, really what that does is it forces all of those juices down from the legs and the back into the turkey breast. So give that a shot. I mean, here's one more quick tip for you in terms of that. Try it with a chicken, this weekend. Brine a chicken overnight and just roast it, in the oven. And you'll see a huge difference.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
And don't be shy because with putting certain things that you like into your brine, I put a lot of garlic into my brine as well.
Oh,
freshly chopped garlic.
Garlic powder or
no? Freshly chopped garlic.
Okay.
Yeah. So that I forgot to tell you that earlier. That's one of those things us chefs do. We forget to tell you one ingredient.
And then you're like, why didn't this work? Oh, you forgot the secret sauce.
Yeah, you forgot the garlic. So as far as seasonings are concerned, I continue to do what you do. I don't think you need to do anything different. I think you're not really getting a lot out of the oil and the vinegar that's in the dressing part of it. Really what you're getting is, and maybe this might be helpful, is to instead of buying that cream, is it what is it?
It's like a cheesy garlic Italian salad dressing.
So get yourself some of the dry powder, the dry salad dressing mix.
Yeah.
And just rub it on and put the bacon on over the top of that. Because you're really not getting anything out of the oil and the vinegar.
It's just wasted.
Sure, and you can make you can make yourself a little paste with some extra bacon fat that you cooked from bacon.
Yeah.
The day before. Make a little paste, rub it on there, put the bacon over the top of it, and do your thing. Or just get yourself some good Italian seasoning and maybe some dried Parmesan, grated Parmesan or something like that. And then put the bacon. Make your mix out of that. You want a nice little. This is the technical term now. You want a nice little bit of sludge to go ahead and rub all over the turkey.
So it'll kind of stick to it and
exactly.
and be present during the cooking.
Yeah,
that's a good
put
idea.
The bacon on the top of that.
Okay.
Well, I really don't think you're getting anything out of the oil and the vinegar.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. That has been something I've done from the very beginning. I thought it was kind of my secret sauce, so to speak.
It has been, and it's probably worked great.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other, like I said, try a chicken before you do it for Thanksgiving because you may not like it.
Okay.
So, do a little experiment this weekend when you roast a chicken. Do the same technique, but instead of putting it on the grill, just put it in your oven.
Yeah.
But get the idea, see if you like it, and then do it.
Okay.
You know, and if
Right.
you don't like it, then just stick with what you know, and play with it throughout the year before you unleash it onto your family.
Right. Right. Well, and every year we try something different from that standpoint. A couple years ago I introduced Heinz 57 sauce into the mix too, and that helped kind of sludge, like you talked about. That helped kind of sludge up everything. I poured Heinz 57 and then would spread it out, and then everything I put on it would stick to it,
Yeah,
kind of deal. And that worked out well. And that 57 sauce, it's one of my favorite. It's just one of my favorite sauces. So it
sure.
worked out really well. And it would add a little bit, as it cooked in there, would add a little bit of that flavoring to it as well, which I really liked. So,
Now, do you have something against like regular roasted turkey?
no,
Oh,
it
okay.
just was, it was just fun. It was one of those
Sure.
things that we started doing, and I'm like, I wonder if we put bacon on. Well, it started in a Dutch oven. We
Yeah.
have and I just did was just doing a single breast of turkey at that point, and then it just got, each year it was like, well, what else could I add to this to
Sure.
make it different? But I love the tech add. I've been looking for a way to add some tech to this, and
Yeah,
I
I
love
think that'll work well for you.
I love that. We will add that.
One
as
thing I
well.
will mention too, you talked about, you put an apple or some other aromatics in there. Whatever I mean, it's okay to add stuff to the center of your turkey, but don't ever make stuffing. Just make a good dressing on the side. And make sure that whatever you put inside your bird, that it's loose and there's still enough room for the air to circulate, because it allows the bird to cook faster and get that internal temperature up fast enough so it's not, in the back, the food danger zone.
One time I cooked them. I actually was using a smoker to do this, and I cooked it for 4 or 5 hours, and the breast meat literally just peeled off when I was done. It just peeled off,
That
and it was
sounds great.
so good. Oh my gosh, it was good. My parents, that was, I think, the first time I did it, that happened, and my dad was like, "This is unbelievable." So every year I went up to see him. I got there. There's a bird in the fridge.
Yeah,
And
he's
like,
waiting for you.
You're cooking a bird this year, right? You're gonna cook our bird, and not for Thanksgiving. This was Labor Day weekend.
Sure.
And
Why not?
I cooked a turkey for them, and he always got the biggest one, and they had this little smoker. So it was absolutely. So that's kind of how over the last decade or so, I've kind of
Sure.
become the bird man, so to speak.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that too, because smoking is a great, is a great way to cook meat. You see it with briskets and ribs, etc. And last time when I was on the show, we talked about the immersion circulator, right? By a company called Polyscience. And since then, and actually before then, we just didn't talk about it last time. If you like smoked products, they actually have a thing called the smoking gun. And so really what that does is it actually creates smoke. And so for instance, in your case, if you wanted to like add even more smoke element to your turkey, and since you already have the tent, you take the wood chips and you put it in. It's basically like an electric pipe, and so they have a little reservoir where you put wood chips in, and it heats up the wood chips, and it shoots the smoke out of a tube into a closed container. So in your case, you could actually stick the tube into, yeah, there you go. There's a version of it. You can stick your tube into your little your turkey tent, if you will,
okay.
and it heats it up, and it will add a smoke element to the food. Now you can do this with everything other than meats and etc. You can actually do like smoked vegetables, etc. But the idea is, and this is actually inexpensive enough to where you could probably get it for your home use, but it gives you the opportunity to provide that essence of smoke without actually using a large smoker, even a small smoker outside. And I know right now you're showing ones from Amazon, and I don't know exactly what the cost is on it from Amazon.
Oh, here, I'll go back and $100, $99.95.
So it's not too bad.
Yeah.
If you got Amazon Prime, it's $100 out the door. And really, what you can do is you can actually create some really dramatic presentations. I know they showed there on Amazon where you could, you can actually have a plate with your food on it and have a dome over it, and you feed that smoke into the dome and close it off. So when you present your food to your family or your guests, this is kind of she fancy, but you take the cloche off, or in this case, they've got just a glass. You take the glass off, and the smoke comes up, and it really perfumes the air and really gives you that essence of smoke, which is a great thing. But it also affects the flavor of the actual meat. So I think it's one of those. It's one of it's not 100% practical. And if you're going to be grilling, but you may not have a smoker, you can always add, the smoker wood chip box to your grill, and it'll have a similar effect. But use it in conjunction with the immersion circulator if you want, and it provides kind of that smoky flavor to your, seared beef.
Even though you're not cooking it necessarily on fire, the with the envelope around it and just a little section opened on those, am I gonna get smoke inside there? If I have a smoke box, and I don't use it very much, but in that scenario, is that hole open enough to get smoke flavor in there?
Well, I think something for as large as a turkey, I think you'd get the essence of smoke a little bit on the outside. I think the smoking gum might be best suited for, smaller objects where that smoke will help permeate. In your case, use the smoker box if you want to add that smoke to it.
Yeah, and I haven't. The way we've been doing it, I'm okay with a non-smoked turkey. So that hasn't been with the bacon flavor. We get a real hickory flavored bacon, and so we kind of pick up some hickory there on that.
Yeah. It's all personal preference too. So
yeah, no, and the taste, and they're different every year. Even though I try to follow the same rules and do some of the same things, I do change things up. And then, I'll be looking around the kitchen. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen that before. Maybe I'll give this a try. The year I also take 2 big pans. Actually, I've used big foil pans that you can buy. They're $1.50, whatever, at Baker's.
Yeah.
And in years past, I've made the envelope, and then I've put that envelope in the pan, in a single pan, and put it on the grill. Well, the problem is that the bottom of that pan gets all black and yucky, and you go out there with gloves to pull it off, and then it transfers onto the gloves. It's in a mess. And so this year I thought, hey, Jim, be smart. I'm going to get 2 pans, right? And then leave the outside pan on the grill and pull it out by the inside pan, and then that part will be completely clean, and then I can take that into the house and kind of transfer it in that way. So something I learned kind of just this year. I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this? Well, it's not that much more expensive. Now, at the end of the day, I spend a lot of money on these turkeys. I mean, this is probably the most expensive meat we will eat all year, including some of the good steak that we get. By the time you think about all the prep time and the gas and all the stuff, the bacon, all that stuff.
Now you're the iGrill that you're gonna add into that.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna be awesome. My wife's gonna just absolutely come apart. She's like, "Are you kidding me? You're remotely monitoring the temperature of the meat." And
you're
I'm
like, honey, it's gonna save us time. It's gonna save us time. Don't worry. I've already saved us.
Yeah.
I've already saved us an hour. Think how valuable my time is.
Exactly.
It's already paid for itself.
It sounds like you've done this before. That's what it sounds like to
I've
me.
tried.
Yeah.
I definitely tried.
Yes. Well, hey, thanks for the advice on that. I'm glad I recorded. I will probably go back and watch or listen to that again just to kind of get the brining tips and stuff like that. So thanks for that info. Hey, in the show notes, you had dropped some information, and let's just talk real quick about this idea of technology coming to the fridge, because this is where we've joked about this for a long time. This stuff's real now. I mean,
there's no more joking. It's all Jetsons stuff now.
Yeah. What do you think as a food guy? What do you think of this in the kitchen? Is this helpful? Is it a gimmick? Is it a joke? Are we seriously going to do this?
Well, what we're talking about is LG has been really touting this whole smart kitchen system and home system appliances. They really want to become kind of the leader in real technical advance when it comes to their appliances. So they've got an oven, a refrigerator, and a washing machine that they're releasing that you can actually talk to via a chat app, much like your text message, like you and I would text message back and forth. you can say, hey, oven, I don't know if they've got a special term that you'd use for it, but like, hey, oven, I want you to preheat in 30 minutes to 450 degrees on the way home. And we've seen a little bit of this with when we talked about the immersion circulator last time. Anova has their immersion circulator actually communicates to an iOS app that you can do, I believe, while you're on the same Wi-Fi network. And so according to LG, they're actually, you can just talk to the app and it's registered to this particular refrigerator or this particular oven. So one of the great things about, let's say, the refrigerator, yes, we can preheat the oven, before we get home, and so we can put the lasagna in when we walk in the door, and everything moves along a little bit faster. But one of the things that they're talking about with this refrigerator is they're actually going to allow you to, by having a camera that's inside, see what your inventory is in your fridge without ever having to open the door, and possibly away from home. So what this will allow you to do is, one, know what you have on hand. Like, let's say you're at the grocery store and you're like, oh, do I have eggs? I should check. So I don't want to bring home another dozen if I've got a dozen sitting in the fridge, which has happened to me, plenty of times. But so you can check on that sort of thing. It also is supposed to have a freshness date that goes along with it, so it allows you to know like when you put something in the fridge and how long it's been in there and if it's still fresh. But then here's kind of like where the overarching magic comes in. It's supposed to be able to suggest recipes based on the ingredients you still have in the refrigerator, which I think will be neat.
Does
So
some things by weight, right? Where I
I
saw
have a
that.
feeling it's going to be like kind of an OCR type thing where
Yeah.
it's going to recognize what it is by either shape or letters.
There was
on the
one I
packaging.
read where, like, when you're putting the milk back in, it'll recognize you're putting the milk jug in, and so then the shelves are weighted, and so it will know, oh, hey, wait a minute, you took this much milk out. It'll know when your milk's getting low, so
Sure.
you know when to order more milk.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be kind of neat to see stuff like that happen, and we're seeing more and more of these. Even the smaller appliances, I've read about crock pots that are able to use like the Wemo technology to set and start and stop. So I think that's where we're heading. I don't think there's going to be any like grand new revolution in terms of cooking technology. We've seen some things with like some of the heating technologies. The microwave was really like the last big invention for the kitchen.
Yeah.
And that's still, as a cook, I don't particularly care for. I use it to heat up my coffee, and that's about it. So I think we're seeing kind of using these ancillary technologies, to communicate with the appliances as the wave of the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, certainly if you want to go check those out, I think they're coming to a retailer near you. They're probably not the link, and I'll throw this in the show notes as well. They're probably not in every market yet. They're, of course, they're going to hit Asia here probably first and make their way into the U.S. But go out and take a peek at those. I don't know, Ryan. I like the idea. I don't like it. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's like these fitness devices, and it was just a Fitbit and it measured steps and a few other things. It was great, and now it has so many things they measure. You almost get overwhelmed by all the measurements,
Sure.
and you're like, oh, now I got to input this, and what's supposed to save you time ends up meaning you got to check your stats more. It's just kind of like, I don't know. Do I really need that? Hey, we're gonna save we're running up against my time here, but I want to save the Echo discussion to do a home tech tips here in the post show. So are you good to stay around for a few more minutes?
Sure, certainly.
After we're done, okay.
Yeah.
We did get a question from Ken in the chat, and he's wanting to cook an egg in the microwave, and when he does it right now, it's sticky. And you got any tips if he wants to do? And then if you don't like the microwave, how would you do that efficiently and quickly?
My tip would have been don't cook it in a microwave. But if you're not doing a scrambled style egg, actually, I've seen you know, you can put it in a little plastic cup, you know, mix it together, salt and pepper, and microwave it for a few, I don't know if it's 35 or 45 seconds to a minute and a half. I can't remember the last time I've done it. But, you know, it makes a fluffy, scrambled style egg. I think you kind of get what you're, you know, what is the old saying? If you input crap, you get out crap, or your output's crap.
Garbage in,
like
garbage in,
garbage out. Yeah, that's a much more succinct way of saying it. Garbage in, garbage out. So, you know what? Get yourself a really nice nonstick pan. Scramble an egg. It takes 30 seconds. I made 2 omelets in a minute and a half this morning for myself and my fiance, and it just takes a matter of practice, really. You know, little pat of butter in the pan. Scramble your egg in a separate bowl before you put it in there. Put your heat up on high. Really work your high heat rubber spatula in the pan to get it together. Leave it nice and loose. It should be shiny. Take it out of the pan, and it'll be cooked by the time you're ready to eat it. You know, honestly, a scrambled egg in a pan, you know, is literally no time at all.
Yeah. And we do ours, we have cast iron, and I throw it on an electric.
There you go.
And boom, I heat it up, and I actually a little bit of spray, but a little bit of bacon bits in there, just to pull them out of the fridge. Not a lot, just a little bit of bacon bits. They kind of sizzle. And
everything is bacon.
Do you see? I have a shirt that says that I wear from time. It says everything's better with bacon. You could do that with sausage too. We get some sausage that we pre-cook and then put in the fridge. And when we're cooking eggs, we'll pull that out and then just to throw a pinch in there to kind of season it a little bit, and then throw the eggs in on top of it, and it works great. So I did that too. Like when I want to make an egg sandwich, I would get a bowl, a nice glass microwavable bowl, and I would just do a quick spray in it, and then throw the scrambled egg in there and cook it in the microwave, and it literally would just pop out.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, so that works, and it's totally fine if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
But I do have a feeling they leave the eggs to me, just a little too rubbery.
They're not great. Yeah, but you know, if you're in a hurry and you want to do that, and if you want to, I just find Sarah will boil a whole dozen eggs and put those in a special carton, and then if you just want to do a raw egg, or not raw, but a hard boiled egg.
What are you, Rocky all of a sudden?
Yeah. Yo, hey, Adrian.
Just tip back a couple of raw eggs.
Just throw it back. I got to get my protein. Well, we're going to bring this in for a landing. Ryan's going to stay around for a few minutes. We'll do hold on. What do you put up there?
I had my orange.
Nice. There you go. The back to the mustache as we wrap up the show. Ryan's going to stay around. We're going to do a home tech tip here at the end. We're going to talk about the Echo. I've got some questions for him about the Echo in the kitchen, and so that'll be our home tech tip. You'll have to go out to theaverageguy.tv to hear that. It's a whole separate podcast to just a 5 to 10 minute discussion about something very quickly, and then that's something you don't have to listen to the whole podcast to get. And Ryan, thanks for staying around. I'll remind you to use our Amazon affiliate link with everything we talked about here. Again, if you want to use that, theaverageguy.tv/Amazon, or now the new one for Canada, theaverageguy.tv/Amazon.ca. Ryan, the way that works is John Zadler, who's one of our Canadian residents up there, he actually set that up, or I helped set it up for him. And anything people buy in Canada, he takes those dollars, he buys tech equipment, and then he messes around with it and he reports on it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it worked out real well. He's kind of a tinkerer, hacker, slasher. What's that tool that you cut stuff with?
A knife.
It's no. Why can't I
Scissors.
zip tool? One of those zip. It doesn't matter. It's been a long day.
Yeah, I have no idea actually.
I should know that the chat
somebody
room.
in the chat room will know.
Somebody in the chat room will tell me here, and so both of those work. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. We've had about 50 or 60 of you do that since I started doing it a couple months ago. It's not a lot of spam. I just send you out one message a month, just kind of little what's going on in the network and some links, some helpful links for those of you who are not on social network. That's kind of a great way to do it. And then one last reminder, and Ryan's out there with us on Saturday mornings as well, but we're out at Ask the Podcast Coach. If you want you don't even have to be a podcaster. We just have a good time out there talking about tech and social networking. It revolves around podcasting, but Dave Jackson and I from time to time. Ryan Guest hosted in my seat at one point when I was not able to make it.
Very honored to do so.
Well, you did a great job, so thank you for doing that as well. AskThePodcastCoach.com is where that's at. 9:30 a.m. Central, 10:30 Eastern. And, of course, you can catch this show live almost every Thursday night. It's going to be weird over the next 2 months because Thanksgiving, what we just talked about tonight, and then Christmas are both on Thursdays here in the U.S. this year. So that's I'm going to take those nights off, so we won't be live. But I always say like 50 out of 52 weeks out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. We'll be back next week. We've got a bunch of fitness stuff. No, is next week Thanksgiving? Is next week Thanksgiving? Okay, so no, we won't be here next. But the week after that, we've got some fitness stuff coming up. Mike Howard's coming back to talk about cameras and camera technologies. We've got a bunch of cool stuff lined up for you. And so don't forget to come out and listen. We'll be back 2 weeks. Everybody if you're here in the U.S. or maybe you're abroad and you celebrate Thanksgiving, everybody have a very good Thanksgiving. We'll be back here in 2 weeks. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Good night.